Okay, so what could a tiny village in Costa Rica, a bunch of online influencers, and your own body's cells possibly have in common? I know, it sounds like the start of a really weird joke, right? But believe it or not, they all share this hidden blueprint for well-being, and it shows up in the most unexpected ways. So let's dive in and see if we can figure this thing out together.
Wow, this needs to be preached in every church. We need to know the truth. I mean, what could possibly happen to make a pastor say something that strong? Well, the answer is definitely not what you're probably thinking. And it's going to reveal this really profound strategy for building connection and, real trust. And you're not going to believe where it all begins. A simple pair of reading glasses. Seriously, this whole story, this big blueprint we're about to uncover, it all kicks off with one of the most basic acts of kindness you can imagine. And somehow, that one small thing becomes the key that unlocks an entire community.
All right, so let's set the scene. Our story starts in a town called Fortune, specifically La Fortuna, Costa Rica. It's this beautiful place right near the famous Areno volcano.
So, La Fortuna literally means the fortune in Spanish, and it got that name because the land there is just incredibly fertile. But, a name doesn't always tell the whole story, does it? Despite the name, this community faces some real challenges. It's even home to a transitional home for kids from high-risk families. So yeah, it's definitely a place of contrasts.
And right into this setting comes a mission group. They're from an organization called Build and Restore International. And the thing is, they didn't just show up with a message. Nope, they came with a very specific two-part plan.
And this really gets to the core of how they operate. They call it the opening wedge strategy. The idea is so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Think about it. Before you can even begin to share a deeper message with someone, you've got to help them with what's right in front of them, their immediate practical needs. It's about opening the door before you try to walk through it.
So, what did that actually look like in La Fortuna? Well, step one was all about laying a foundation of trust. The team literally went door to door. They offered free basic health screenings, checking blood pressure, glucose levels, and here it is again, handing out reading glasses. It was only after they had done all that, after they'd laid that groundwork of genuine care, that they moved on to step two, inviting people to come to some evening meetings. And guess what? It worked. It really worked. Remember that pastor from the very beginning, the one with that powerful quote? This was him. Because the mission group had shown up first with practical, genuine help, he trusted them, he felt good about their invitation. And he didn't just show up by himself, he brought his entire congregation with him. That's huge.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. This whole opening wedge idea, this strategy of building trust first, it's not just for villages in Costa Rica. It's the exact same blueprint that some of the most successful people use online today, from wellness coaches to, well, you name it.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at the comparison here. On one side, you've got the people who built trust in that village, the medics, the local pastor, the health educators, and on the other side, you have the most effective online marketers, specialty trainers, people documenting their own wellness journeys, niche health experts. They are playing the exact same role. They're the trusted, relatable guides for their specific communities.
And we're not talking about celebrities with millions of followers. Not at all. We're talking about what they call micro-influencers. Their audience is usually somewhere between 5,000 and 50,000 people. Now that might not sound like a huge number, but that's actually their secret weapon. Their power comes from the intimacy and the high level of trust you only get in a smaller, close-knit community.
So why do these smaller communities convert so much better? Well, it really just boils down to three things. First, there's a much higher level of trust. It feels like you're getting advice from a friend, not watching an ad. Second, the engagement is real and personal. They can actually have conversations with their followers. And third, they're super specialized. They know their niche audience inside and out. See, it's the opening wedge strategy all over again, just dressed up for the digital world.
Okay, let's pivot and apply this same idea to a totally different field, making modern tech more human. The challenge here is, how do we apply this blueprint of trust to help, say, seniors get comfortable with new technology? It's the exact same principle. Meet your audience where they are and solve their immediate problem first.
I mean, think about it. The core problem is identical to the one in La Fortuna, right? It's all about overcoming that initial hesitation, maybe even a little suspicion, and building confidence. So how do you do it? How do you use an opening wedge to make something like modern streaming TV feel just as familiar and trustworthy as the old TV they grew up with?
And here are the answers. It's all about those opening wedges. You don't start by trying to explain what IPTV is or how streaming works. That's a recipe for disaster. Instead, you give them a simple remote with big, easy-to-read buttons. You organize all the content into folders they already understand, like news or movies. You turn on voice control so they can just say what they want to watch. See, every single one of these is a practical step that builds trust and makes the whole thing feel less scary and more usable.
All right, buckle up for our final leap. And this one is the biggest one yet. We've seen this blueprint of trust and balance work in a community. We've seen it work with technology. But what if? What if the exact same principle applies inside our own bodies? I'm talking right down to the biological, cellular level. It's the ultimate balancing act.
Let's talk about hormones. The simplest way to think about them is as your body's chemical messengers. They're like the internal text messages that tell every part of your body what to do. They regulate pretty much everything: your mood, your metabolism, your sleep, you name it. And just like in a community, their ability to work properly depends entirely on one thing: balance.
Now here's a fact that blows a lot of people's minds. We tend to think of male hormones and female hormones as being in two totally separate buckets, right? But check this out. Both men and women rely on the exact same three core sex hormones: estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. The only thing that's different is the balance, the specific ratio of each one.
And when that delicate balance gets thrown out of whack, well, the effects can be really profound. As you can see here, for men, if estrogen gets too dominant, it can lead to things like fatigue and mood swings. And for women, if testosterone becomes dominant, it can cause issues like thinning hair or irregular periods. It's this incredibly delicate internal system where balance is absolutely everything.
So, the big question is, how do we support that crucial internal balance? The answers are thankfully pretty straightforward and foundational. In fact, you can think of them as your body's own personal opening wedge. It all starts with the basics: good nutrition, regular exercise, getting enough quality sleep, and finding ways to reduce stress. These aren't magic pills. They are the fundamental building blocks that create a foundation of wellness, allowing everything else in your body to work the way it's supposed to.
And that brings us right back to where we started. It's all come full circle. Whether you're talking about a mission group earning trust in a small village, or an influencer building a real community online, or a developer making tech that's actually easy to use, or even just our own bodies trying to regulate themselves, the blueprint is exactly the same. Real well-being comes from creating balance through thoughtful, trusting connections.
So I'll leave you with this one final thought to chew on. We've seen that from the community level all the way down to the cellular level, balance seems to be the key to everything. So the real question for you is, when you look at your own life, your own world, where do you need to find a little more balance?